Okay, I call the October 27th, 2020 meeting of the Newton Planning Board to order. As chair of the Newton Planning Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and most recently extended by Executive Order 2020-20, this body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing the Zoom platform for this electronic meeting. All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting telephonically or by using the Zoom website. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the town website. If anyone has a problem, they should email the planning board office at planningboard@newtonnh.net. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be rescheduled and adjourned. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Also, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 23, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, and most recently extended by Executive Order 2020-20, the planning board is relieved from the statutory and local requirements to meet on a particular schedule or a certain number of times within a given time frame. The planning board is also relieved from complying with statutory and local deadlines for accepting, hearing, and acting on planning board applications. Note, as an attendee at the meeting, your microphone and/or phone will be muted. The board chair will specify when the public comment period is open for the application. Town staff will be in attendance in the meeting to manage the public comment process. If you are participating online with the Zoom program, click on the hand icon at the bottom of the screen. This will raise your hand so that the moderator knows you wish to speak. If you are participating by phone, press *9. This will indicate to the moderator that you wish to speak. When your turn, the moderator will unmute you and let you know you can share your comments. When speaking during the meeting, please announce your name so the administrative assistant can know who is speaking as he is taking the notes. This time, I'd ask the administrative assistant to call the roll of the members.
Mr. Hamill.
Present and alone.
Ms. Estabrook.
Present and alone.
Ms. Collier.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Mr. Foote.
Present and alone.
Mr. White.
Present, and my wife is with me.
Mr. Andrews.
Present and alone.
Mr. Cronlick.
Present and somewhat alone. I'm in a hospital room with my wife, so I may lose service, but I am somewhat alone.
Ms. White.
Present and not alone.
Mr. Sforza.
Present alone.
Ms. Allen is not present this evening. Neither Mr. Zott nor Mr. Zielinski appear to be either. Jen Rowden.
I'm here.
Alone?
Yep.
Roll has been called.
Okay, we have a full board so at this time. First item on the agenda is 125 development. I'm going to be recusing myself for the first two items, and Ms. Estabrook will chair the meeting for those two items.
Thank you. Before we start though, can we do that motion that we sometimes do about our extended time and how long we'll go before, like, we take another thing? Because last time the meeting went till after 11. So I didn't know if that's something we'd want to consider for tonight.
Andy, this is Jen. Before you do that, you should appoint any alternates that you need
Okay.
to, since Roger stepped down.
Right, but, all right, does he have to step down to vote on that? Can he come back? That's why I was gonna ask before he stepped down, but,
He can vote on that technically. He
Oh.
just stepped down.
okay. So then, seeing that Roger stepped down, I'll appoint Barbara White, a voting member for Roger.
Okay.
Okay. So now, would anyone like to discuss what I just said about time frame?
Mike, you did this motion every time.
Yeah, I don't have it written in front of me, but essentially it's that because of a busy agenda, we will, at 9:30, we will complete to the best of our ability the project we are at that time working on, but we will not take up any new public hearings.
I'll second that motion.
Is that close enough, Jim?
Yeah, I'll get it from one of the previous ones if you want to repeat the same one over and over again.
Well,
Makes sense.
if what I just said is good enough, but
Right. I think it just gives us the opportunity to see where we're at 9:30 and see if we want to continue or whatever.
yes.
Okay.
But we did open and then just continue any others.
Right, that we didn't get to, yeah.
Yeah, so that should be a part of the motion.
Yes, you're right. Thank you.
That's what I meant. I'd grab the language that you'd used before.
Thank you.
Okay. Did we get a second on the
I
motion?
seconded.
Okay,
That's Annie.
okay. So any other discussion? If not, Jim, can you call the roll for that vote?
Mr. Hamel,
You on mute?
Aye.
Came off mute and said aye.
Mr. Foot,
Aye.
No, I did not say, Jim, this is Roger. I did not say aye because I had already stepped down and Barbara was
Oh, okay.
voting.
Okay.
So I shouldn't be on the roll for this vote.
Sorry, you were the first name on the list. Okay, so Mr. Foot says aye. Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Mr. Cronlick,
Aye.
and Ms. White.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. Can you give us a little hint, Jim, when we're getting towards 9:30? I don't have a clock.
I will do my best.
Thank you. Okay, so first agenda item is a continuation of 125 Development, New Hampshire Corp of Plastow requests a public hearing on a major non-residential site plan on Puzzle Lane, Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referenced as tax map 14, block 1, lots 27-7. When speaking during the meeting, please announce your name so the administrative assistant can know who is speaking, as he will be taking the minutes. Okay, so this was a continuation from last week, which was continued from the week before, I think. So I believe we have choices is to make a motion on completeness or deny the application, or to see if the applicant would like to request a continuance. So do we have anybody from the applicant? No? Okay,
Yes, Sandra, can
Oh.
I speak, please?
sure. Would-
Yes, I had my hand up, so anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just like to continue. We're still working our way through the ZBA, so, all right.
Okay, so the applicant has asked to continue this, so the next meeting would be November 10th.
Correct.
So I'll make a motion that we continue this to November 10th.
This is
I'll
Mike, I'll
second.
second that.
Second, this is Barbara.
Okay, I don't think we need any discussion, so Jim, can you call the roll?
Well, I think Barbara might have had a question.
Oh, Barbara, do you have a question?
No, I thought I tried to second, but I guess Mike got it.
Okay, we'll let you jump in the next time. So Jim, can you call the roll for the motion to continue till November 10th?
Mr. Kronlich,
Aye.
I'm assuming that was Mr. Kronlich saying aye. Mr.
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Continued to November. All righty. Let me change my page. Okay. Second item is 125 Development Court of Plastow, New Hampshire requested public hearing for a 36 lot subdivision on South Main Street, Route 108, Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referenced as tax map 14, block 1, lot 27-3. Please announce yourself when you speak so the administrative assistant can take the minutes. Do we need to know what time we started talking about this one, Jim, or they just all go after each other?
Actually write it down.
Okay, so what time is it?
7:14.
7:14, okay. So I believe this one is the same options we had on the previous. Completeness or denial, or alternatively, if the applicant would like to request a continuance for this. So I think the first thing is to find out if the applicant would like to continue, because then we don't have to talk about it. So would the applicant like to request anything from this one to be continued, or?
Sandra, it's Tom
Yeah.
Leckborn speaking.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, I stick my hand up, so, but anyway, I'm not getting, I don't know if you're not seeing it, but I guess what I
Jimmy,
would
you're
like to
not seeing
say,
hands?
yeah, I see
Yeah.
Coleman has his hand up too, but he needs to
Right.
unmute.
Oh. Sorry, it's
yeah,
all that technology.
Yeah, I know. So I guess what I'm saying is I would like to know, let me see, if there's any questions from the planning board.
Oh. I think we talked about a lot of questions last week.
Yeah, I know you did, and I just wonder if anything had changed. That's what I was wondering. I just want to make sure, because if not, we're still stuck in ZBA with this one too. We're waiting for our hearing for that. So if there's no questions, well, I would say we want to be continued.
There were a ton of questions that were raised last time, and those still exist.
Right, we brought up about the points that the engineer had brought up. Right.
Right, Mike Vignali.
Yeah, correct.
Right. Okay, so we'll leave those to the next round. And because our zoning, what we're gonna end up with is gonna determine where we're gonna be.
Okay.
Um,
So then
at this
some of
point,
those questions would probably be addressed on your revised plan.
yes, it's actually all underway and pretty much completed.
Okay.
And we just, like I said, we're just waiting on the ZBA to see how this is gonna play out.
Mhm.
And so I think the best thing to do is if there's no questions, we should just go ahead and continue it till next meeting, which will be after the ZBA.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we continue this application to November 10th.
Can I just do a point of order first? I see on Coleman's, he gave permission for 2 other people, I think, to speak for him for this order. So do we need like Coleman or is it all right if Tom? I know Coleman, you're on the line. Is it all right if Tom makes that suggestion?
Sandy, this is Jen. You should really have Coleman state it or an authorized agent.
Right.
I know Tom works for Coleman, but.
Right. That's why I was asking. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Coleman, saying he wants to speak, but if for whatever reason he can't get unmuted.
Oh.
Yeah, and I am an agent of 125 Development. I don't work for 125 Development, but I'm an agent for Coleman. And I have a letter to that. I don't know if that's still current in the planning board, but I'll make sure there is one there so I can speak on his behalf. But Coleman wants to speak, and I don't know how to unmute it for him. Is anybody maybe Jim help him?
*6.
Is he on his phone? Yeah. *6.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's on the phone or a laptop, but
Hello?
here you go.
Oh, we got him.
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Finally. I obviously Coleman McDonough, and prior to continuing this, I would like to bring up where we left off last week. I'm going to let the board know that Jace is no longer with the company.
Oh.
And I know you're all sad, but I want to let you know that I have a major concern as to what Jace was following up with. And we have this plan that's been submitted in Bill is addressing the 27 comments from Mike. But again, I can't express enough that this is, you probably don't have the plans and stations in front of you, but it's from 0.00 Route 108 to station, I believe it's 10 plus something, but it's basically to the Quintana building in that lot line where it enters into the residential back into commercial. I am still confused as to why the board would want to separate this. It is submitted in a whole, as we discussed last meeting. The AOT, the wetland crossings, the impervious area, everything is treated as a whole, and we submitted this plan, and Jen brought it up about splitting off the residential, and we can't do that. I mean, this plan has been in for 3 or 4 months now, and what I heard in the last meeting is, you want us to basically break apart the plan and resubmit a whole, like a third of the plan and reapply. And it doesn't, this thing is got to be treated as a whole, as traffic study, topography, the road entrances, how it all ties in, AOT. Again, maybe Jen can shed some light, but I have still full steam ahead on plan in its entirety. Was submitted 3 or 4 months ago.
Andy, would you like me to address Mr. Coleman's questions? This is
Yeah,
Jen.
yeah, I was thinking we covered it all last week, but go ahead.
Certainly. So what has been applied for is a subdivision. As part of that subdivision road that's proposed to be constructed, part of that road does go through 2 residential lots, which is fine. The subdivision and road construction may be part of one application. My concern from last time was that a workforce housing proposal suddenly became part of this current subdivision proposal. A residential development that contains more than 2 residential units, so anything bigger than a duplex, also requires site plan review. It doesn't require another subdivision. It requires an additional application of a site plan approval. The same thing will happen with every single one of the 36 subdivided lots. They will still have to come in to the planning board for site plan approval as they are developed. Whether additional things for an alteration of terrain permit also would need to happen as each property is developed, that is up to alteration of terrain rules. But construction of the road as part of the 36 lot subdivision and going through the 2 residential lots can be part of one application. Doing a site plan that includes buildings will have to be separate applications.
Am I still muted?
Nope. Go ahead, Coleman.
Okay. I fully understand that, Jen, and we expect to submit each and every individual site. And the way I thought we would address this, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have 36 commercial lots. Every lot will come in for a site plan review, and there is 2 lots or 2 parcels that make up the residential, I'm going to call it 22 acres, and that we expected to come in with probably two different site plans, or, a site plan as a whole. But I mean, we are going to address every site plan, and I got to express myself in that I saw what went on the last meeting, and as far as the fire station, and I think I just want to say that I think we should be consistent on every person that applies to the planning board, and I still can't understand why I have to spend, on average, $15,000 to $20,000 on a site plan, and somebody can come in with a napkin and get approval.
Well, there's a little bit different scope of work there, so that could be something to have to do with it.
Let me say, Sandra, right? Yeah, there's a lot of problems with that site. I mean, if I was on the planning board, I would scrutinize the water service that runs across underneath the state highway. How you get to the communication pole, there's no easement. I mean, I could rip that napkin apart, but why did I have to spend $75,000 on baseball fields, which got approved by the ZBA, and the roadway coming in, okay, and $15,000 to $20,000 on every one of my sites, and every one of my sites that I had in phase 1, I had to do the same thing. And I feel that the board should be consistent. So if somebody else can come in with a napkin, I'm going to come in with a napkin.
The other application was a minor site plan, yours is major. That's why the difference. And I'm sorry that you don't get that, but there's a huge difference between that application and yours.
I still feel that there's a lot of problems. You haven't designated any snow, storage, lighting. I was asked for renderings. How come I have to do all of this and another applicant doesn't?
Well, for one thing, you're working on undeveloped land. I mean, this is from scratch. So there's certain things we have to meet and have to do. The other, building was already there. It's been there
Actually, Sandra, there's more problems. There's more problems with that's already been developed. I mean, it got rezoned in a New York second. You haven't addressed the water line. How about if that fails? Are you going to dig up the highway? If the guy
and
says,
we're not here to talk about that, but there is an easement for that water line, and so that's in the person that bought the property knows. So we're gonna move on to talk about this application.
Okay.
Thank you. So, we answered that question. So would you like to continue it till November 10th?
I just want to continue our conversation that I don't need to split up this plan as we speak.
I'm not understanding where you're getting that
Excuse me, can I finish?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and that I don't have to split up a plan that, I invested a ton of money into, that, we can keep going with this plan that was presented 4 months ago-ish, and that when it comes to site plans, that, we'll come in with our site plans.
I think for clarity, just to build on what Jen had said, this is Annie. I think that the part that got to be the splitting up discussion was when you brought in someone to talk about workforce housing, and there is no workforce housing application at this point. This is for a road and for subdivisions. It's not for workforce housing. When you make the application for workforce housing, then that would be the appropriate time to have that conversation. I hope that's more clear.
I fully understand what you're saying. I thought it wasn't that Ben Frost was going to speak about the individual units that, I would construct. He was basically just kind of coming on because we haven't even decided whether it would be workforce housing. But I thought you and all the other members would have benefited from, the presentation that Ben Frost would have given the board and educated both the board and myself whether we wanted to go in that direction of workforce housing.
Okay, let me make a suggestion to you, which is let the planning board set the agenda, and you don't bring in somebody that you think would be interesting for us to talk to that is not on our agenda and is not part of an application that's current. I just think that was overstepping.
Well, this is Sandra, right? Colin, we said that going forward, right, we're interested to speak with that gentleman about workforce housing, but at this particular time, I don't think we're at the stage to talk about workforce housing. We have to get this section of the plan approved or whatever before we can move on to what is going to be on each particular lot. So that's why we're trying just to, stick to what we're doing right here. And then after that, we can, entertain what's going to go on each lot.
Okay. Is there any other discussion that the board might want to have on the residential end of it? seeing that the residential end of it doesn't need ZBA approval?
Not at this time. There's no application.
There's no application for the 36 lots either of commercial.
And that's why we're not talking about what's going on those.
So you don't even care about the whole project. So yeah, why don't we ask for continuance?
I care very much.
No open discussion as to, runoff, treatment, or, grading or roadway, or,
I believe
everybody's
that
all set with it?
I believe the engineer came up with some questions about those particular items. So if you address those items in your new plan, then we won't have to talk about them now.
Okay.
So is it clear that the request for a continuance has been made? I haven't really heard that.
No, I haven't either.
Yes. Seeing the board doesn't want to discuss it, I'm going to ask for a continuance.
And Annie made the motion. This is Barbara. I'll second it.
Thank you.
Jim, can you call the roll motion to continue this till November 10th?
Mr. Cronlick?
Oh, by the way, I got a text from him. His reception is really, really bad. So we actually could appoint Steve as a voting member. He had to leave.
Is that a point of order thing, or because we didn't get an official that he dropped off?
Yeah, well, he didn't have the ability to let you guys know, so he asked me to let you know.
Okay, so Steve, right?
He's in the process of adding to his family.
Right. Oh, well, yeah, no what? Thank you for trying to join for a minute then. Okay, so seeing that Steve had to leave, we'll appoint. No, Evan, who left?
Edvin left.
Evan left. We're gonna appoint Steve, right? Sforza, as a voting member for this in place of. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to make notes on all of that.
That's okay.
Mr. Sforza,
Go ahead.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
May I ask a question? Did Larry say aye or did he say pass?
I heard
I
him
said
say
aye.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it sounded like you said pass. Must be my reception.
Okay, so we'll continue that hearing till November 10th. And I believe that's my last item. We can invite Roger back for the next item.
I'm back now, so that Barbara is at this time not a. Next item is Austin Peralt of New Hampshire requests a public hearing for a conditional use permit accessory apartment at 121 South Main Street, Hampshire. Property is referenced as tax map 30, block 2, lot 17-11. Peralt, would you like to make a presentation?
Yes, I'm here. Am I unmuted?
you are.
Oh, yeah, I would like to make an accessory apartment where my barn now is.
Okay, and you've submitted some plans for that. Jen, do you have any comments on the application?
I do think the application appears complete. My one, I guess, question, really for the applicant, but also for the board to consider, is that one of the requirements in the accessory apartment is that the accessory apartment be attached to the primary dwelling unit and has to be through it has to have an interior door, a direct access. The sort of breezeway that you have in between your main house to the garage, that's a 3/4 breezeway, 3/4 story breezeway. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do plan on finishing it.
Okay. So that's just that was a question, but also a consideration. And the other aspect is that the last part of the accessory dwelling does state that it has to be readily able to be converted into part of the primary dwelling. And it is a little bit of an unusual connection to have it be above on the second floor of that connection, because there's a garage, but there's also attached space. So that's really a judgment call with the planning board, just to consider. It seems that every other piece of criteria has been met, pending that septic system can be verified.
Yep, I got a stamped engineered plan for the septic system as well, for a new one. By dependable construction, I think it was, and Bob Leverone was there for the test pit as well.
So, because having that septic approval for any addition would have to be part of any occupancy permit. So that should be a condition of approval if the board gets to that point. So that's all I have, Roger.
Okay.
That's the question, and I still have it, is where is the interior connection of the apartment to the main dwelling?
So that one I could put a door where it says unfinished storage, and I can make a walkway right there.
Saying on the first floor, now
Yeah.
have a door going from the kitchen into that unfinished area.
Yeah.
And
And
what
there's also an existing door from there into what is now the breezeway.
So on the other side of that unfinished area, there is another door.
Yes.
Not on the plan. Oh,
So there is one there now existing.
Jim, that you marked on in yellow, is that where that door is?
Honestly, I haven't been in this house in probably 30 years, but that's approximately where I believe the doorway was.
This is Sandra. Can I ask a question? This apartment's going to be 2 stories, the kitchen with a living room and the bath downstairs, and then the bedroom upstairs with no bath or anything? Is that correct?
There's a bathroom downstairs.
There's no bathroom upstairs where the bedroom is, though?
No.
And then, is there any access to the outside from that second floor?
There's a egress window in the front.
So they'd have a porch with stairs, or how would they get out from up that second floor?
I could put another door in.
Well, I think you have to have 2, right? You can't be upstairs without having a way out, I don't think.
You don't need an exit from an outdoor exit from the second floor of a house.
No.
I mean, a lot of single-family houses don't have outdoor exit from the bedrooms upstairs.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I was just thinking, I don't want to be stuck upstairs without getting out. And then the unfinished storage, is that part of the building itself? Like you can only have so many square feet. Like one page says you have 390 and then the other page is 480. So is it
So-
totally you can only have 850?
So the unfinished storage, I'm gonna keep that to put like my lawnmower and yard tools in. And then the other part where it says living room would be part of the accessory apartment.
Okay, but from the kitchen, they'll have access to that unfinished storage.
Yeah, I don't know if I needed that door there, but I just put it there because I thought that you needed a means of egress. I thought you needed 2 on the first floor, so I put it there. But if I don't need it, then I probably wouldn't put it in.
But actually, that door is what is required for an internal connection to the main house. Because actually, from what you're saying, the unfinished storage is a part of the main house, not part of the apartment.
Right. I'm gonna keep that for. Like I
Well,
said,
that's yeah.
Roger, this is Barbara. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, on the first floor where the kitchen is, where he's got the door that would be going into this unfinished storage area, and then where Jim showed that yellow where the other door goes into the house, wouldn't they need to make a wall there to make this like a hallway for the connection so that the unfinished storage part can't be morphed into the apartment? Does that make sense?
Well, then too, like,
I don't,
Like that, right? That wouldn't that need to be done to make that like a hallway part?
Barbara,
No, they-
this is Jen. No, the door itself into the accessory apartment is the delineating line.
Okay,
I mean, you may wish to put it as a condition that that space that's the unfinished storage can't be used as part of the apartment. Like it can't be converted into additional parts of the apartment. You could put that, but you don't need to put a wall in to differentiate.
well, and then they also need to go to the fire department for all their safety with not sprinklers, motion. You know what I'm saying? The
Smoke
For their life.
detector.
thank you, smoke detectors. That's smoke and CO. Yeah.
so if I'm looking at the picture, right, it shows the house with then like a 2-car breezeway and then the barn, right? So is this unfinished storage, is that part of that barn area? And so and then you'll have the,
yes,
okay.
it's part of the barn.
So then you'll still, the accessory apartment won't really meet the main house because it's gonna meet the 2-car garage. And then it's still the main house is way on the other side.
I do plan on finishing that garage.
As part, as living space for the house, or,
Yes,
so then everybody will be parking outside, there'll be no inside parking?
yes.
Sandy, keep in mind, this is Jen, that the connection doesn't have to be an interior connection.
I thought it had to share a common,
A connected inside door. It doesn't have to be,
to the main
it doesn't have to be
dwelling,
like
right?
a heated living space. It can be a garage that meets that condition.
Oh,
This has to be an inside door.
okay.
So I don't have to finish it anytime soon?
So what is the total square footage of this apartment, Jen? Do you know? Like with both floors, like
It should be 798.
Yeah,
798.
it is well, it is under the 800. It was close, but it's definitely under 800. Sorry, I didn't do it offhand.
I think it's 736.
It's 390 and 408, so that's 798.
I think I might have counted the stairway twice.
Sorry, it's less than 800, but not a lot less than 800. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are there any other comments from the board? Is there any other comments from the public?
Should we accept this?
You do need to accept jurisdiction. It's Jen.
Does anyone want to make a motion to take jurisdiction?
I'll make a motion that we take jurisdiction of this application for an accessory apartment. This is Annie.
I'll second it. This is Mike.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have just another question. On the tax card, it says that it was used as a two-family house for 50 years and that it already has 2 kitchens. So would this be considered like a third something for this dwelling, or is it now back to a one-family house?
So I think before I bought this house, the guy turned it into a one family. Because there's only one kitchen in the house.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment?
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
At one time, the main house was divided into 2 levels. Each was basically an apartment. The barn and the breezeway garage were not included. The next owner did convert it back. I'm not certain when. It may state it.
Mr. Chair, can I call the motion?
There are no other comments from anyone. Jim, will you call roll for accepting jurisdiction?
Mr. Sforza?
Aye.
Mr. Andrews?
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook?
Aye.
Mr. Foote?
Aye. We'll make sure all the life safety codes are in place also, please.
That'll go on the
next vote.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Ms. Collier?
Aye.
Mr. Hamill?
Aye. Okay, any discussion of the application or any suggestion of conditions?
Well, I do think that we need to have life safety compliance as a condition, and also make it clear that the unfinished storage is not a part of this unit.
And I have a question with that. This is Mike, just for clarification. I think it's needed, at least for me. Part of the occupancy certificate or occupancy permit that will be required, does that or does that not include life safety compliance? Because I've been under the understanding that the occupancy permit that is always required on something like this does include all the life safety standards through the fire chief.
Yeah, Mike, the occupancy permit does have a sign off for life safety.
But we hate to have the builder be 99.9% done, and then there's something wrong with life safety. That's why they check as they're doing the whole process to not have a problem at the end.
Right, okay. So I agree with the, like, Annie's motion, or where we mention the occupancy permit, life safety, and that's just kind of reiterating it, and just to be clear that it is always a part of the occupancy permit. Okay, thank you.
Do you want those called out separately, or do you want that under the obtain all local and state permits?
I think because of some of the communications we've had recently, I think, at least for the near term, my personal opinion is I would like, as well as all the state and local permits, including occupancy permit and life safety, just so there's no questions for a little while.
This is Jim White. I agree with that.
I agree with it too. I also do think that we need to start using the fourth page. I wasn't a part of any vote not to use it. I know that.
Roger, this is Jen. You still need to open this up to the public for comment.
Yeah. I had before, but again, is there anyone who wants to make any comments on the application?
And make it back into the main dwelling when it's not even attached to the main dwelling.
Also, in terms of conditions, I think though I don't see anything in the plan that says so, and I'm sure that they do plan to do that. The other accessory apartment should also be spelled out in the septic system has to be certified. He said he already did it, but we haven't seen it, so we want to put that on the.
I do have it. I can tell you.
And also, utilities have to be shared with the main.
The other thing is the parking too. You're supposed to have enough for like 4 cars. So if everyone's going to park in that main driveway, I imagine then.
Yes, and I want to extend it to go further towards the barn.
Sandy, this is Jen. There are, just looking at the driveway itself on a Google image, there's plenty of room in the existing driveway for 4 cars. Whether it's convenient for everybody is one thing, but there's certainly plenty of room for 4 cars.
Yeah, it's pretty much back to the street a little bit. Yeah.
Are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chair?
I believe so.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve this with the following conditions. And hopefully I've got them all, but if not, somebody chime in. That all local and state permits be obtained, including the life safety and certificate of occupancy, that the portion of the plan marked unfinished storage be part of the main house and not become a part of the apartment, that that there be a septic certification. That's all I have.
And also that the shared utilities with the main house.
Great.
Is there a second?
Oh.
This is Jim White. I'll second.
Jim, I didn't hear you.
A second, say it.
I'm seconding. This is
Okay.
Jim White.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion?
Mr. Chair, if I can just ask for a point.
Uh-huh. Go right ahead.
Ms. Collier, do you approve of the wording for the condition that they meet the life safety standards? Because otherwise they just have to get an inspection.
Yes, okay, life safety standards.
Okay.
Any other comments before we vote?
I have a question. So
Yeah, go right ahead.
the life safety standards, is that the smoke detectors and all that stuff I have to go to the fire department?
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
that's all.
Roger, we don't call those standards, we call those codes. Those are codes from the NFPA, not a standard.
Okay.
Okay, then let's amend the motion to say codes. Life safety codes be met. Is that okay, Jim?
Yeah.
Any other comments on the motion? Hearing none, I ask the administrative assistant to call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Sforza,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
No.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Okay. Next item is Stephen Sforza of Newton, New Hampshire, request a public hearing.
Thank you, Austin.
Excuse me, Jim. Oh, Roger, this is Sandra.
Yes.
Point of order, I voted no.
Oh,
I guess he didn't hear me.
did you get that corrected, Jim?
Yes.
So the vote was 6-1 to approve. Correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So now we will move to item 4.
Mr.
Stephen-
Chairman,
Yes.
I must recuse from this.
Okay. Seeing that the Sforza has recused himself, I will name Ms. White to be a voting member in place of Edvin. This item. So the item, Stephen Sforza of Newton, New Hampshire, requests a public hearing for a conditional use permit, house-based business, firearm manufacturer at 2 Georges Way, Newton, New Hampshire. The property is referenced as tax map 7, block 3, lot 14-4. Ms. Sforza, would you like to make a presentation?
If I may. Pending approval by the town, my business FFL shall include 2 licenses related to firearms training. The sole reason for the request at this time is to give the business the ability to assemble firearms under this license. There will be no manufacturing of any sort at the listed address. The term manufacture used by the ATF does not mean that my business will fabricate any items at the listed address. There will be no pieces of machinery or other tools and/or hardware being brought to the address. There will be no changes to the home-based business inside or out. Currently, the property is monitored 24/7 by private security system to include but not limited to infrared digital video cameras, recorders, sensors inside and on the exterior of the building. Items are all securely maintained in numerous security cabinets and or fireproof safes located on the premise. Mainly, this Firearms Training LLC is for training purposes. There are no classes held on the premise, no sales on the premise, and mainly any sales that are conducted off premise are to law enforcement personnel. The only time anyone comes to the residence or the premise is for a transfer, and that is mandated by the ATF. So again, there will be no specific manufacture. It's only assembling of parts. And if the board so chooses to approve this, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Jen, would you like to comment on the application?
Sure, I think it's a complete application. I think the addition of and the explanation as to what the term manufacturing, as Mr. Sforza read in his letter, I think addresses the additional comments and that it still qualifies as a home-based business. And the only thing the board may want to consider is one of your provisions in home-based business, and it applied to the original one, is that there should be no processes used that may be hazardous to the public health, welfare, or safety, and that there should be no home-based business must not admit smoke, dust, odor, noise, or gas. And it seems that what Mr. Sforza is proposing will not do any of those, but just to cover your bases.
Board have any comments?
Sandra, I have one.
Okay.
So I guess I don't know what it is you're going to assemble, because you said there's no changes. So are you not assembling any pieces? Like, is anything being delivered? I don't understand what you're assembling.
The term manufacturer is an ATF term.
Right.
So there'll be no actual engineering or manufacture. Assembling is generally, in layman's terms, putting a barrel on a lower receiver, or
Right, so
assembling triggers, things of that nature.
Right. So that's my question. You said there's no changes, but you must have like an assembly table or something like that, or some other items that are going to be delivered to you so you can do your assembly?
No. In what I would call my armory, I already have a work table because I also am a gunsmith. So I clean weapons with general cleaner, no hazardous materials whatsoever, which are properly disposed of, obviously, which any person can get off the shelf in Walmart. So generally, I would take a barrel, put it on a lower receiver, assemble the trigger, and that is basically it. There's no assembly line. It's a simple process that any armorer or qualified gunsmith can perform. So furthermore, I've been a gunsmith and/or armorer for over 25 years now. I've been a law enforcement senior master firearms instructor for 28 years, 4 years prior to that in the United States Air Force. So I have a little bit of history with firearms and firearms training in general.
So this is Mike, to just sort of maybe clarify that. It just sounds like right now you had written that, okay, regular manufacturers aren't able to put these together as fast as the sales are going out, and what you're doing is essentially if I broke down a firearm for an extensive cleaning, I have all the parts sitting on a table and then I'm putting back together again. That's essentially what you're talking about when you talk about assembling, correct?
That's correct, Mike.
Okay. One question, you brought up training, and I'm just curious, describe the actual training a little bit for me, please.
So the LLC was originated out of my desire to continue training not only law enforcement personnel, federal, state, local, municipal, but also civilians. I became certified as a basic firearms safety instructor by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts State Police approximately 12 years ago. So I've been conducting and holding civilian safety courses over that course span of time. So I've expanded my training for not just law enforcement personnel or sworn officers, but also the community as a whole. As a licensing officer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I'm entrusted with licensing residents of the community where I served. And to obtain a license to carry in the Commonwealth, you need a basic firearm safety certification course. and there's only so many certified persons that can teach this course. So as a licensing officer, I thought it'd be beneficial to the town, to my agency, and also as a community service to offer free training to residents of the community where I served. So it just continued from that point. I started training more at my private club range. I am the chairman of the safety committee at my range. So I take it very seriously. It's obviously a hobby of mine, but it's also something I take very seriously. And I'm obviously a supporter of the Second Amendment. So I would like to see more qualified civilians be properly trained in carrying, using, and having firearms in their home or on their persons whenever they can. But also I want them to do it in a safe manner.
Okay, I think you kind of answered my next question because you mentioned a firearms range. Because when I heard you say training, I thought, are you training as in live fire at your house?
That is never,
like there will be no live fire associated with this at your house. It is just.
That was asked years ago when I first applied for this license. Absolutely not. This is a private residence. But as regulations for the ATF demand, I need an actual brick and mortar property to have this license. There's no training whatsoever on the premise, on the property whatsoever. There never has been, there never will be. All of my training is either done through various other police agencies, off campus, so to speak, at different ranges, either private or municipal or state, or at my private club, which is a couple miles away in a neighboring contiguous community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Take jurisdiction on this?
Move we take jurisdiction of this application for home-based business expansion.
This is Barbara, I'll second.
Any comments from board or anyone else? If not, I'd ask the administrative assistant to call the roll.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Moving on to the
Thank you.
application. The application itself. Is there anyone who has any other comments? Public have any comments? If not, would a member of the board motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the application as written. I can't think of any conditions that need to be added at this time.
Well, I would like, in the conditions of approval, restate some of the things that he put in the application. That the approval is only for fabrication and not for manufacture of pieces. Mr. Sforza, maybe you can, I think you understand what I'm trying to say. You may have better words for it than I do.
Mr. Chairman, I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, I've spoke with the AFT on this.
Okay, and maybe you have better words for it.
We need to leave in there the words manufacturer of firearms because that is the federal terminology. Because I asked whether or not it could be changed to assembly, and she said that's not
okay.
what is based on. So it needs to pretty much stay as it is.
Okay.
as far as the title,
Uh-huh.
if you want to say, put a condition in that says no pieces of machinery or other tools or hardware to create gun parts.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. Jim is 100% correct. It has to say manufacture. That's why I tried to explain the difference between manufacture and fabricate. There will be no mills or lathes or any other equipment whatsoever. What I have in the armory is what I have. They're basic armorer's tools like wrenches, things like that. There are no mills or lathes, or there will be no, how would I say this, any heavy metals coming into the shop. There will be no blocks of aluminum or iron, other than basic tools that any regular armorer or gunsmith would have. There will be no manufacture of any parts whatsoever.
And I appreciate that. And I'm just looking for a way of, in the approval, of reflecting in a way that will allow you to do what you need to do, but also, and that's why I'm looking for some kind of wording that will suit your needs, but also sort of memorialize what you just said.
Roger, this is
Mr. Chairman?
This is Annie. Mr. Sforza mentioned the word fabrication, and would it be okay if we put in there there'll be no fabrication of gun equipment?
Before we go too far, this is Mike, and I'm going to ask Jenna. I think she might answer this. That's why I made the motion to approve the application as written. We have an application with the attached letter, and Jen, please clarify on this. Can't we just move it as written and it would include everything we want it to?
It certainly can, Mike. This is Jen. If you want to reference that its approval is based on the use of the property as presented in Mr. Sforza's letter dated September 19th, 2020, just to make the point home, you can certainly do that. But because it's part of the application, it's his letter, that's what you're approving, is that application with this letter that spells all
I
of
think
that
that
out.
would be the give us the most clarity moving forward, and then there wouldn't be any questions.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I'll second that motion. This is Annie.
Do we need any other? And when you started, you mentioned some other conditions about noise and.
Yeah, those are, if you happen to look at your zoning, I'm on page 14. I'm looking at section 12C. I mentioned sections G and H. It's on the top of page 15 of your zoning ordinance. That you might want to put those in as conditions, that you're not going to have any process that shall utilize hazardous public health, welfare, safety, or the home occupation must not offend by emitting smoke, dust, odor, noise, gas, fumes, light, or refuse matter. Those were just two suggestions. It's certainly at the opinion of the board whether those are necessary or not.
Aren't all applications required to meet our existing ordinances unless we state otherwise?
They are, given that this is a manufacturing use, although I understand it is not manufacturing. Just because that term is used, that's the reason why I was suggesting just those two specific ones to be called out.
Oh, okay. So I'm fine. Since I made the initial motion, I'm fine with adding that to my motion if Jim was able to get that down.
Ms. Rowan, can you just give me the citation?
Yep, it's section 12C and letters G and H under subsection G, or subsection C.
On page 15.
Thank you. I will, when I
Go ahead.
record the notice of decision, I can record this letter also.
Okay. Is there a second to Mike's motion?
I seconded it, Sandy.
Is there any additional comments from either the board or the public?
I have a comment, Sandra.
Yes, go ahead, Sandra.
I'd like to thank Steve for his neatly typed application.
Yeah.
It was nice to get something that we could read.
It might not look like it, but I actually can type about 90 words a minute, so I'm pretty adept at it after 28 years of police report writing.
Yeah.
If Jim doesn't want to do the job anymore, I can probably take over for him for an admin assistant. I'm kidding.
Put it this way, you type twice as fast as I do.
Okay, if there are no other comments, Doggett, will you call a roll for the approval of the use?
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Mr. Hamel.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Thank you again.
That ends our public hearings. Now we'll move on to board business. The NEPR manifest. You received their emails for $375.30. I have a motion.
I move to approve the manifest.
A second. This is Jim.
Any comments? Not, Mr. Doggett, will you call a roll?
Actually, before that, Mr. Hamel, I want to thank the board for giving me a NEPR petty cash. As you could see, the amount this week would have had to have gone onto my private credit card, and that's no longer an option.
I'm glad this is working out.
Yeah, but didn't you get to keep the miles?
I still get, oh, my card didn't have miles.
Oh, okay.
And the town doesn't pay interest.
Sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Hamel.
Aye.
Ms. White.
I don't know if I'm still in.
Yes, you're in replacing Edvin.
Okay, yes, then aye.
Mr. Andrews.
Aye.
Mr. Foote.
Aye.
Mr. White.
Aye.
Ms. Collier.
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Next item is the acceptance of minutes of October 13th.
I move to accept the minutes. This is Annie of October 13th.
I just had like a comment. Is that okay?
Sandy.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Under the right to know, there's like very little about what we talked about, because we had talked about getting Jim some help and maybe hiring somebody else to help him organize that. So I didn't know if we wanted to capture that under our minutes or just leave it as we talked about it and we didn't make any motions.
I was going to apprise the board of what actually happened after the meeting. If you'd like, I can do a quick synopsis here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
We
dug
need a
out,
second, we need a second before we discuss this, though.
I'll second that. This is Barbara.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
I dug out all the files. It took about an hour and a half. Assembled them. Was ordered to meet with the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and Mr. Hamill was there. The selectmen determined the process that would be used. Ms. Moran agreed to proctor the review, and it was basically taken out of the planning board's hands. So all other right to know requests had been satisfied, except for the review of certain documents that we've heard nothing further on.
Any other comments on the minutes?
I was going, did we make a motion to have somebody check into possibly getting him some help, though? I thought we made a motion on something.
No, we did not make any motions, and subsequent to the meeting, the selectmen chose to solve the problem.
I just wanted to give us credit for trying. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Doggett, will you call the roll on the acceptance of the minutes?
Mr. Hamill.
Aye.
Ms. White.
Aye.
Mr. Andrews.
Aye.
Mr. Foote.
Aye.
Mr. White.
Aye.
Ms. Collier.
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Next item on the agenda is the 2021 budget. At the last meeting, we approved a budget to recommend to the selectmen. Since then, I received notice that the selectmen were going to consider the budget on, I forget the date. Jim, do you have the date?
November 2nd.
And I was wondering, Mr. Foote, seeing that you're going to be there, would you represent the board at the selectmen's budget meeting?
We had the meeting last week for the planning board, but no one showed up from the planning board to present the budget. We usually ask the department heads to represent the budget. I did explain to them why the 10,000 it was higher due to the land use lawyer that we were discussing. So I think if someone from the planning board can make it on the 2nd, whether it be a planning board member or Jim can come and represent it, but somebody should be there, but I will help them and discuss it.
Jim, are you available? Can you sort
Next
of
Monday night, yes.
Yeah, so you can arrange your Monday night hours, your Monday hours to cover that without adding any additional hours?
Over the span of a week, most likely.
Why don't you take care of that then? Any other motions on that? The next item is Annie, last meeting, made some comments that she was interested in making some zoning ordinance changes, and sent one in early, and that one was in your package, her suggestion. Later, she also sent me, it wasn't in the package, several others. Charlotte, Annie, go first.
Did you want me to speak? I'm sorry. Is that what you said? I didn't hear.
Right, yeah. I invited you to speak.
Okay, thank you. I'm proposing a change to the setbacks in the light industrial commercial zone. What I suggest is having a 200-foot residential building setback rather than structure. Until Jen joined the board as our circuit rider, it was always interpreted and understood that the word was buildings and referred to buildings. And it was only in last few years that it became, we became aware that the word used is actually means anything man-made. And so what I'd suggest is that we revert back to the use of the word buildings. And then the second thing is that we change any place that it abuts, that a light industrial zone abuts a commercial zone, that it be a 50-foot building setback, as commercial to commercial is 50 feet.
This is Barbara. May I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. I don't think that the light industrial abuts commercial, because the light industrial is light industrial / commercial. And I don't think that it actually abuts commercial anywhere.
Yes, it does, Barbara. There is one place where it does abut.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And there are other light industrial pieces in town too. So
well, yes, that's true too. We're not just talking about this one piece of property.
Absolutely.
Since we just got this not too many days ago, I would like some more time to look at it and maybe go back and see if I can research and find out what their rationale was to change it in the first place. Maybe we can look at this again the next meeting.
Well, first of all, I know the wording didn't change. There may have been some differences in interpretation, and Jen may be able to talk about this, but on a general note, I think it is not a good time for the planning board to address changes in setbacks, or the other suggestions that she had was for some other things that were in terms of lot sizes. And I think, you know, Annie has talked about reviewing the master plan. And I think really what we do is not go piece by piece looking here and there to do, but to look at it more generally. And that, you know, it wouldn't be this year, but we'll do it later. That's my opinion.
So Roger, this is Jen. Do you want me to give a little history on this ordinance?
Go right ahead.
So first, regarding my interpretation of the setbacks in that area, it actually harps back to your definition of a structure, which effectively states anything made or constructed. So that means things like parking lots and stormwater infrastructure. That ordinance had been worded that way for quite some time. Why it was possibly interpreted by different boards and zoning boards and planning boards differently, I can't tell you. I can just tell you what it said and the way I read it. Regarding the 200-foot setback in the light industrial commercial zone, it's 1988 or 1989. Originally, when that ordinance was written, when you guys actually enacted zoning districts, it said a 200-foot setback. It didn't say structure, it didn't say building, it just said setback. And that was very unclear. So sometime in the mid-90s, the word structure actually was added. So the 200-foot setback has been there since the late 80s. The addition of the word structure came later. My suspicion, and this is just my suspicion, I can't give it a strong backing up of concrete documents, is that the reason the 200-foot setback was originally proposed in the late 80s was because at that point, the only areas you had in town that you decided to zone commercial were somewhat surrounded by residential, somewhat, it's much more so now. And you have what is effectively known as spot zoning in Newton, in that you have very specific areas in town that are zoned as commercial light industrial. Obviously, there's one very big area that is, but there's a lot of other little parcels that are zoned in that, which is sort of a classic spot zoning. So that's it. That's my little bit of a background for you on that. I have no opinion about the zoning change one way or the other.
This is Mike. Can I say it? I just kind of have a comment concern. I tend to agree with addressing the commercial to commercial connection or light industrial commercial where you have those two type of land uses right next to each other. The concern I have is even changing that for residential, the structural to building, because what we're saying there is, okay, you can put a large parking lot 50 feet from a residential line. And I think that is against the intent of the ordinance from way back. So that's my concern with that issue. The other thing is timing, and I have to go with Roger a little bit with this, just what's going on and looking at an overall picture of both what we're going to be seeing, you know, with timing and all that. I think probably looking at this on a larger scale versus trying to address these individual issues piecemeal, I don't think is the best way to go right now.
Any other comments from anyone?
Well, this is Sandra. I just have a question. This is light industrial / commercial zone, right? Do we have just a commercial zone? Do we have setbacks for just that, or is it commercial, like light industrial, commercial, both go by this?
There is a light industrial commercial zone. And
Right.
separate to that, there is also a commercial zone. So for instance,
So the commercial zone has different setbacks than the light industrial /
It has
commercial
50
zone?
foot setbacks.
Okay. It always confused me why they do light industrial / commercial zone. They don't just keep it light industrial.
Yeah, the naming can get a little confusing there.
Yeah, it's confusing, yeah. That was just it.
any other comments?
Do we need to make a motion to put it on another meeting to talk about it again later, or?
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
Were there, I may have misheard, this is Mike, were there other changes that, Annie, that you had proposed other than the one that we got a copy of?
Yes, the other one that I'd sent in a little bit after thinking about it, I was thinking about all the dry wells and that kind of thing. And what I'd like to propose is that we change the 3 residential zones to 2-acre zoning instead of 1.37 acres. Because I think that our water, I just think water is a problem, and it's growing as a problem, and I think that would preserve and protect our town a little bit better. I understand what you all are saying, or a couple of you are saying about deferring talking about this until after we review a master plan. You know, I guess it's a question of whether you think it's a priority to straighten out some of these things or not. You know, I was willing to do the research and to look into it and to bring it to you. So
On this one, Annie, I really think especially hold off, because I think before we make those kinds of determinations, we would really need to do a lot of research in terms of, because one of the things that the zoning refers to, I forget the wording, something from the Rockingham Planning Commission on the soil types. And I think, there's a lot more that I think we would do, and I think we're really better off waiting until we look at the master plan, look at any of the other changes in the zoning that would make sense as the town has changed.
I did, just so you know, I did some research into other zoning regulations, and I understand what you're saying, that you'd like to, do a more thorough investigation into it, and, I'm fine with that. But I did look into the setbacks that are in other towns nearby that are, similar. Kingston has 500 feet. And 200 for commercial use and employee parking. Plastow has 100 feet for a structure. East Kingston has 200 feet for a building. And Northampton has 35 feet for structures. Hampstead has 50 feet for residential and 15 next to commercial. So they're all over the place.
And that again goes to, you have to fit it into the master plan and what people think, what the people in the town want the town to look like.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's kind of what a warrant is for too, but yeah.
Is there anything else on this item? I'm going to move on to the next item. Annie also was interested in doing a whole bunch of other projects that she had asked about. The review of the application form, including page 4. She also wants to review fees and do the master plan. I think we all agree that the master plan needs to be reviewed. It's just a matter of how soon are we going to be able to get started on it. We had 4 public hearings today. Next meeting, Jim, if I'm correct, we're going to have another 4. We have the 2 continuations and 2 new ones. Correct. Is that correct?
Correct.
So Roger, if I could speak?
Yep, go right ahead.
One of the things that was discussed last time was forming a group to, I don't know if it was looking at a lawyer or something, but it was to form a smaller group within of members, a non-quorum sized group. And I would suggest, and I was told back a while ago that that was something that is not allowed as a part of our thing. So it's a little confusing what our operations are, whether we can have a group or we can't. But I would suggest that we make a rule change if it's needed, that we form a group to start studying the master plan, because we're not going to be able to do them in our meetings, and form a group to do those other projects, to look into those other things, so that we could then bring people who were in that group, could bring that subcommittee information to the board, and we could discuss then. I think it would be a more efficient way to start to deal with these things instead of kicking the can down the road.
So are you suggesting as a first step that we revise our rules of procedure to include subcommittees?
Yes.
I will do some work on looking on what such a rule change would be in the next meeting, a little later than the meeting after. That address your concerns?
Yes, that would be great.
Hey, Roger, this is Mike, and quick question for Jen. Is there an issue that you know of for having subcommittees if on that subcommittee you have a quorum of the planning board members?
So with any subcommittee you have, you do not want to have a quorum of the planning board. So most towns that have subcommittees in their rules of procedure limit it to no more than 3 planning board members. There are some towns that will allow, say, like 1 member of the public if that might be warranted for whatever topic you might be talking about. But you want to avoid having a quorum.
Okay, all right. And then the other thing, the whole page 4 issue, I think that might be something on the sooner rather than later, considering that it is part of our official application package, that we find a way to start using that, even to the point of just having the different departments, at least where they've seen it, they can sign off on it, because from some of the communications we've been getting, at least then everybody would be in the loop. So there would be no claims of either being left out or ignorance. So can we, and I guess that's for the chair and for Jim, what would it take to start actually using page 4?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go right ahead.
I instituted about 2 months ago, when we started getting all of these applications, as you know, all of the applications, the plans, the review letters, what have you, are on the town website.
Mm-hmm.
I have been, when I put applications up there, I send to the fire department, police department, conservation, the road agent, the assessor's office, the building inspector, an email informing them that there are new applications. They are kept, the new applications go on the bottom of the list, informing them that they are there, and that if anybody, please review them. If you have any questions or concerns, please address them to the planning board so that I can send them to applicants. So far, the only response I've received has been the fire chief's has put up, and I can forward these to people if you'd like, that he has no problems with the applications at this time.
Could I suggest that, I know in our world of digital and digital signatures and all that, but what I would like to see is when I get an application and page 1 says 1 of 4, that there's a 4th page, even if that says did not comment, and at least then that could push some of these other departments to at least know that they have a timeline or whatever, and that it is recorded that they did not comment.
I can do that.
If I could add to that, it also would protect both the applicant and the town from having issues that could crop up and may. That it alerts the applicant of the need to get these, to talk to these people. It protects the town that the applicant should have. And then we could not accept an application as complete unless there's something noted next to each one of those things on page 4.
Mr. Chair, Larry?
Go ahead, Larry.
So to fall back on Jim's comments, yes, it's true. He sends the emails to department heads. That department head, the fire chief, replies the way he replies. I have no issues with nobody coming in this town, and that's how he's looking at it. I don't care if you want a dynamite factory in town. It's fine with me. His issue, and I'm not sure if you guys received the email he sent out on Monday on the new owner who just came into town, that he wants page 4 adopted and used, because he told it wasn't been used in the last 20 years. He wants that to be filled out before the planning board approves any applicant. And it's up to the business that's coming to town to grab the application, take page 4, go to each department and get a sign off on what he plans on doing, and he describes to each department what he's doing. That way they're going to know, no, you need a new fire alarm system, no, you need this, no, you need that. If it's signed off, there's no issues at the end. So this is the second time that we had an issue in the past 2 months. The one with the 108 hardware store, who's still not in there, who's supposed to move in September 1st, but $25,000 later, he's going to move in. And the new guy who moved in with the old fire station, needing a spray booth, and he's going to find that out once he gets his occupancy permit, that he's going to get shut down.
So, Larry, what you're suggesting is that when we review an application, that it would be the applicant's responsibility to have gone through each of the
correct, each department head
on page 4 and gotten
correct.
some type of either some type of sign off, either that they have no comments or that they've published a comment. And that would be if someone failed to get a response from the road agent, then that would be reason for not taking jurisdiction.
Right.
Well, what is it, Jim, what is the time frame if I wanted to get the application and a meeting? It's a good 3 weeks, correct, to get a hearing?
No.
Larry, this is
That's the
Jen. The
question.
minimum
That's the
requirement
question.
is 21 days.
Right.
All right, so that gives them plenty of time to hit the police department, which is 99.9, so it'll be not an issue. Road agent, 99.9 is not going to be an issue. The only issue 90% of the time is the fire department. And the building inspector will probably be up there with the 90% along with the fire department. Because it's been them two departments the last 2 times have denied the new owners of coming in and setting up at this time. It just makes life easier if we can adopt page 4, have them fill it out before the planning board approves their application. It would make life so much easier.
Jen, I have a question, if I may, Roger. Jen, how much of this is actually the planning board's purview, and can we deny, slow down an application for signatures like this or comment?
So per your own procedures, no. And I'm pretty sure that per state law, no. You can certainly have a condition of approval always be that they get sign off by the road agent, the fire chief, the police, whatever needs to get. That can always be a condition. A sign off prior to an application being able to even have jurisdiction taken, I think is a stretch, because it's very common, especially for a bigger proposal, for there to be changes midstream. So to have someone go to the road agent and say, this is okay, and they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. And then suddenly it has to be reworked. Well, then it might not be okay with that reworking. That's, I mean, I understand the request to have applicants be better informed before they get to the planning board, or before they get approval from the planning board and go and seek an occupancy permit. I fully understand that. I think it might be better served rather than this page 4 sign off, which comments from departments should absolutely be sought when an application comes in. If there could be a letter maybe put with the application that recommends that they go and see, all of the departments they may potentially need to, because it may impact what their proposal will be. So that it is upfront that they should go and check with those departments without that onus being on the planning board.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And Larry, I understand what you're trying to do here, and I agree with you. It sucks for an applicant to go through us and then find out he has to do other things. Although, as long as I've been on the board, it seems like we've made it very, very clear that it's the applicant's responsibility to check with these different departments, particularly life safety. And you brought up the paint barn on the old fire station. We went over and over with the applicant with that. And, you can only do so much. And if an applicant, and I'm not saying this applicant did, but an applicant is unwilling to listen to what has been said and recommended, and then wants to complain about it later and pull out the victim card, I'm sorry, that's not our responsibility. So I agree, that's Jen, what you said, I thought is how it was going to work. So yes, maybe instead of page 4, we have a letter included in the application that states essentially what you said, Jen, that we highly recommend this, because we can't require them to do due diligence. It's not part of our purview.
So Jen, you're saying that page 4 is basically not that it's illegal, but it's not enforceable by the planning board before getting approval to run a business. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that page 4 is the part of your application where you get the departments signing off that they have seen the application and maybe have some comments, but none of those comments can be binding for the planning board accepting jurisdiction or not. Does that make sense, Larry?
But it's taking jurisdiction and approval, 2 different things?
Yes.
You take jurisdiction, providing you come up with the concerns that the planning board has before approval.
Taking jurisdiction is that you have supplied the information as required by Newton's regulations. Newton's regulations don't specify that you have gone to see the fire chief or the police chief or the road agent as part of your application. It
Right,
doesn't.
so how do, right, exactly, you hit it right on the point. So how do we get that if the planning board wants to do that? Is that a warrant article, or is that just adoption of the planning board?
Honestly, Larry, I don't think it's actually legal for the planning board to do it. I think it's outside of the planning board's legal purview. You could certainly check with New Hampshire Municipal Association, because I am not an attorney. But I do know that you certainly can put in a cover letter on any application that you recommend that applicants go and see.
Because this guy, if you listen to him at the last 2 meetings, he tippy-toed with the planning board saying, I am not painting full cars. And that was the key word right there that nobody caught on to. But I will be painting quarter panels, which is still falls under the state guidelines of a paint booth and all this other stuff, which he does not have, and which he does not plan on putting in, because the last meeting he stated, oh no, that will cost me $100,000. So the minute he sprays 1 ounce of paint, he's going to get shut down. He's going to come back and say, the planning board said it was okay. That's what the fire chief's argument is, and you know.
Well, that's not what
you guys know.
Yeah, but Larry,
Huh?
that approval did not allow for a paint booth. So I think if he does go to spray, he should get shut down. He'd be in violation of his approval.
Right, but he is going to spray, because you can't do minor body work without spraying the paint to make it look like the same rest of the car. Correct?
I can't speak to whether what he's going to do or not do. But
Okay.
regarding how to have the departments, check
So
off
Jim-
on an application, my recommendation is a cover letter on the application.
Jim, so you received the email from the chief on Monday, correct?
And I sent it out to everybody today. I thought that it had
Okay.
gone out to everybody, but when I looked, because I didn't even get a chance to read it yesterday. I had too much other stuff.
Yeah, it's like a 4-page report. Hopefully all the planning board members can read it. And that's where he's coming from.
All right, this is Mike. I read
That's all
that,
I
and
got.
essentially, it sounded like the chief was trying to get us to do things that are actually his job. And that's why when we give conditions on approval, we're not giving, they don't get their entire approval from the planning board. That's why we have occupancy permits and life and safety inspections. You know,
But at that point, at the occupancy permit level, it's too late. The damage is done. The guy
it's
at
only,
the
Larry,
hardware-
it's only too late if the applicant has not listened through the planning board process. The
right,
paint
you know-
barn you're talking about, let's go back and listen to the audio. We were very clear, and the applicant stated, if I do that, I will have to get a state permit.
And we had
Correct.
as their number one condition, obtain all local and state permits. That was a condition of the approval.
Okay. All right, so maybe the planning board should take a vote to get rid of page 4 then. Because if page 4 is there, it's a piece of the application that's not being done.
I would page 4, the way it reads right now, memorializes if certain people have looked at the plan. It also gives the dates of when the approvals were made. So it's a record of what happened.
So as the application goes forward through approval, those sometimes get signed and dated. Is that correct?
That is, if page 4 was fully used the way I read it, yeah, on the bottom it says, you know, permit may be issued, or the building permit may be issued. It also talks about when the bonds were placed.
That's okay.
And the date that the notice of decision was issued.
That's right. I don't have one in front of me, but that's right. So that's actually a record of the ongoing process, not only the application from the applicant.
Correct.
Okay, I would recommend we take Jen's advice. We keep page 4. Maybe it needs some updating, and we work on coming up with a cover letter, side letter that states essentially what Jen was talking about.
And also with Jim making sure that he sends the applications to those relevant department heads and the fire chief. And if the fire chief then sends some comments to us, we can relay them to the applicant during the approval process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Roger, this is
Whether
Barbara.
they comment or
May I
not.
speak? Roger?
But
Yeah, this is Barbara. Notoriously, not everybody, notoriously, many people on that list who get given the information don't even answer. So you can't even, the only thing you could do is say no response, because they don't even give it the wherewithal to say, okay, I saw it, I don't have a problem.
right.
That's why I mentioned I would like to see on there something about date sent, no response received. At least what we're trying to do here is I'd like to hold people accountable so I don't hear about complaining later on.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead, Jim.
Ms. White, approximately a year ago, and they never got out any further, had some drafts of her concept was to take this land use application board form and divide it so that it no longer covered everything from a home-based business to a major non-residential site plan. If Ms. White doesn't mind my bringing it up. I believe I still have copies of the paperwork that she brought at that time. It was meant to go out in a board packet, and I believe we had too many applications on our hands. I can send that out in the next board packet, and people can actually look at that, and maybe instead of, you know, adopting or rejecting page 4, they can look at those and go, okay, we're going to use, this is going to be our new accessory apartment permit. This is going to be our new, I can't remember.
You know, that actually sounds like a way to go with any subcommittee plans. If we can change our rules to put in subcommittee, then a subcommittee could review them, make some recommendations to the whole.
Yeah, that was one of the ones on my list, I think, Roger.
Right, it was.
Yeah.
So I think rather than sending them out in the next board package, we'll get going on putting subcommittees into our rules.
Great.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure Ms. White got credit because she did a lot of work on that already.
Yeah.
And
I remember that. Thanks for bringing that up, Jim, because I think that is the direction to go. Having one application that covers everything, it really doesn't work.
Well, I do have page 4 in front of me, and there are people on here that say, Mr. Sforza this evening, there is no way he's going to get the town engineer to sign off because he has no way of getting in touch with the town engineer. The road agent, I spoke personally to on these applications and said, they're there, I need your input. I was assured I would get a response, got nothing. So to hold somebody up because they don't have a signature on here puts me in a very awkward position because I have to start to explain to people why they can't find these people to get signatures from.
Well, we already learned that we can't hold them up because they don't have a signature. So the thing is that to come up with a cover letter or a new thing, I think it's a very good idea what Roger suggested. Let's look at the subcommittee, establishing subcommittees. He'll look at the language, and then we can start to get some of this work done. I mean, Barbara should definitely be on that subcommittee because she's already done most of the work.
Okay.
In the meanwhile, we want to make sure that we continue to put a condition on there that all local and state permits and applications, and make sure that we cover that as a condition.
I added that as a boilerplate. That is always condition number 1.
Good. So now when we can make motions, we can just say, okay, I make this motion with condition number 1.
As long as we make sure the applicant knows exactly what that means.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Any other issues for the board? At this time, the next thing on the agenda is a non-public session. We will, when we come out of non-public, we will only vote to seal, we may vote to seal the minutes of the non-public session, but we will take no other votes other than that. Is that the right legal words, Jim?
That covered it. Just hold on a second. I have to get because it's non-public, it has to be on a separate sheets and what have you.
This is Sandra. How are we going to be certain that there's no public people on? Like how are we going to manage that?
I have that power.
Roger, this is Jen. Just to be clear, you do not need me for this portion?
No.
I don't believe so. Jim or Larry, what do you think? Jen?
Ms. Rowden may be there because she does have personal knowledge of one of the people that will be discussed if anybody wants to speak to her.
I will say I don't really want to comment on any
Okay.
potential attorneys I may have suggested as land use attorneys. I'm not going to speak to their qualifications. So
Okay.
with that, I will not be attending, if that's all right.
Okay, yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Roger, do you need a motion to go into non-public?
Well, yeah, well, I just want to make sure we're ready for that before we do.
Okay.
So Jim, are you ready for a motion to go into non-public?
Yes.
Okay. Annie?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we go into a non-public session under RSA 91A:3B. And that's it.
Second is Michael.
Roll call vote.
We're unmuted.
Mr. Hamill,
Aye.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Mr. Andrews,
Aye.
Mr. Foote,
Hi, what was the letter we're going under? I didn't get the letter.
91A:3B. B as in boy.
the hiring of
Right,
any
what is-
person as a public employee, in which case this would be legal counsel.
So it's reputation? No?
No.
Okay, all right.
Is that a yes?
Oh, yes, aye, yeah.
Mr. White,
Yay, yes.
Ms. Collier,
Aye.
Ms. Estabrook.
Yes, aye.
Mr. Chair, do you wish to invite Mr. Sforza?
Yes, even as a alternate, even though he is not voting tonight, I invite him to stay for the non-public.
Okay, then with the chair's permission, I will ask people to leave. I'll give them 2 minutes and then I will start removing people.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Night, Jen.